Hello everyone, my name is Lou Siqi. Today our presentation will divide into 6 parts. The first one will introduce the current corporate governance practice. The second one is about critical analysis of the current corporate governance practice. The improvement of the corporate governance structure will illustrate in the third part. Then it is the risk performance and risk management. Finally, we will introduce the alternatives and conclusions. Okay, let's start. Firstly, I will introduce the current corporate governance practice. In terms of the structure, AKG's board consisted of 3 non-executive directors and 2 executive directors, but only 1 independent non-executive director. The entity have no nomination committee, and the board of the directors take on the function of the nomination committees. AKG also set a remuneration committee. Besides, there are 3 members in the audit and risk committee of AKG, but most of them are not independent directors. In terms of structure culture, AKG's governance report discloses 3 policies that are related to the enterprise culture, which are Code of Conduct, Diversity Policy, and Share Trading Policy. AKG requires directors and employees follow the Code of Conduct strictly. According to the diversity policy, employees of different races, gender, and cultural background have equal opportunities in AKG. The share trading policy requires that the directors and employees cannot participate in insider trading. In respect to remuneration, the remuneration committee will express views based on the remuneration plan of the board. The remuneration committee of AKG involves 3 members who are not independent directors. All directors and senior executives are appointed at fixed remuneration. Then, the next group member will introduce the critical analysis of the current corporate governance practice. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Harrison. In this part, I will analyze the current corporate governance practices. First of all, the board of AKG is a clear absence of independence, as only 1 out of 5 board members is independent. The other 4 members either have a relatively large share, a large interest in the company, or have a role in senior management, which would limit the effectiveness of the board. Furthermore, nearly half of the board members are executive directors, which will result in an adverse effect on the evaluation on the management performance, as it could affect the objectivity of the judgment and have a potential self-review treat. The total of the share held by the board member is 60.76%. Despite the independence, the rights and the claims of small investors and shareholders might be neglected. On the other hand, when directors hold shares in the company, the agency problems can be reduced. The diversity of the board is also a concern to the company, as there is only 1 woman on the board. However, when extending to the scope of the senior management level, the gender balance is achieved. Over 50% senior roles are comprised of women, which is much higher than the figure of ASX 200 in 2019 of 25%. However, AKG shows an incomplete cultural policy without whistleblower policy and anti-bribery and corruption policy. Therefore, unethical and unfair behavior would influence AKG reputation and social position. None of the members in the remuneration committee is independent director, neither of the chairman. In addition, the remuneration committee design remuneration package themselves might cause conflict of interest among all directors. Furthermore, currently directors and senior executives receive fixed remuneration without any bonus, which would cause them loss of motivation to improve performance.
Hey guys, I'm Jing. I will mainly talk about the improvement of corporate governance structure. According to the Ethics Corporate Governance Principle and the Recommendations, the 4th edition, AKG should take some improvement for a more complete corporate governance practice. As we mentioned in the second part, there is only one independent director for AKG, so the board should increase the proportion of independent director to keep the objectivity of judgment and eliminate the potential threat under the recommendation 2.1. And the independent director can offer not only the professional knowledge and effective communication skills, but also a more independent voice for shareholders. Moreover, one security, one vote is a better choice than the show of hands for AKG because it could ensure the interest and the right of minority shareholders. For the culture, AKG should add some items to keep the great fame and the social positions. Like in the recommendation 3.3, a whistleblower policy could encourage employee to speaking up unfair behaviors, and setting up an anti-bribery corruption policy can decrease the bribery and improper payment. As for the remunerations, according to recommendation 8.1, remuneration committee should comprise an independent chair and members, so it can avoid the director to decide their own remunerations. And AKG could use the performance-based remunerations to encourage employee to work hard and achieve the company's goals more successfully. And furthermore, disclosing more detailed information about the remuneration policy could encourage employees and make the company more unity. Thanks.
We've showed about corporate governance practices before. Let's move on to the corporate risk. In this part, I'd like to talk to you about AKG's risk performance. There are 6 risk assessments as stated in the entity's annual report. Firstly, treasury risk is related to management of company's holdings. AKG's senior managers have a regular meeting to evaluate treasury management strategies, which are based on real currency and interest rate exposure. Therefore, AKG's management of treasury risk is useful. Secondly, AKG has a colleague in Singapore, so it also faces the foreign currency risk. However, the group had not had the foreign currency transactions in this year, and the company states senior management will continue to evaluate this risk. Thirdly, liquidity risk is the risk that a company may be unable to meet short-term financial demands. AKG manages the liquidity risk by monitoring forecast cash flows and ensuring that adequate and utilized borrowing facilities. Moreover, AKG also pays attention to credit risk because it can impact the business operating. However, the probability of credit risk occurring in the education business is very low, because organizations usually charge tuition fees in advance. In addition, in the education industry, the severity of interest rate risk is low. This company reduces the risk of interest rate changes by reducing or eliminating interest-bearing debt. Finally, in terms of measurement risk, the accurate measurement of assets and liabilities may affect the company's financial performance. The risk is low because AKG stated that the carrying amount of financial assets and liabilities is approximately equal to the net fair value.
Okay, next is risk management. The board has established the Audit and Risk Committee to control and resolve business risks that may have a significant impact on the company's operations. The committee detects and assesses business risk and reports to the board. This includes financial reviews, management reviews, and performance and qualifications of personnel. According to the annual report 2019, the company disclosed the financial risk that may have a significant impact comprising the treasury, foreign currency, and the liquidity risk. Terra model will be used to analyze risk management, and it discloses the related management policies. According to the assessment of risk above, the likelihood of risk of treasury risk is high, and the impact is also very high, so it should be avoided under the Terra model. AKG managers meet regularly to discuss strategic management about currency and interest rates, which may not avoid the risk effectively. In addition, foreign risk can be reduced to low likelihood, with a high likelihood and a low impact. Senior managers need to consider an appropriate method like purchasing rate assurance to reduce the foreign risk in the next financial year, because foreign currency transactions have not been recorded, causing the balance of foreign currency appearing positive in the 2019 financial report. Furthermore, liquidity risk demonstrates that cash inflow is less than cash outflow, affecting the company's operation, which has a significant impact but does not happen frequently. Thus, the liquidity risk is advised to be transferred to other financial elements. The annual report of AKG has transferred the risk through managing forecast cash flow to avoid daily operations being affected when an unexpected event happens, causing cash flow not being sufficient. However, because AKG is in the education industry, the board considers that the company does not have any material exposure to economic, environmental, and social sustainability risk. Therefore, the committee lacked regulatory policies for low-impact risk like credit, interest, currency, and measurement risk.
Hello everyone, I'm Meng Yu. I will give recommendations of risk management of AKG, and at last I will make a conclusion about our whole presentation. In order to reduce liquidity risk, AKG can strengthen the analysis of asset liability matching and explore short-term financing instruments. In addition, AKG can control scale of treasury and make capital investment diversified to decline in the treasury risk, and it's also called financial risk. Furthermore, as presented before, that the regular meeting about currency and the interest rate may not avoid the risk, so we recommend AKG set floating rate instead of using the fixed rate. At last, about credit risk, AKG can establish credit assessment, which can select customers with poor credit. Overall, these recommendations are targeted to transition risks. Then I will make a conclusion about our whole presentation. Because a complex governance structure and risk assessment determine the capability of response of risks. And an effective complex governance structure can lead to a complete risk management system. So our presentation introduced AKG's current governance structure and risk assessment. In terms of AKG's current governance structure, my partner presented the AKG's current governance practices about structure, culture, and remuneration, critically analyzes these practices, and also gave improvements about these practices. Furthermore, as I mentioned before, that a complex governance structure is related to risk management system. So we also investigate risk performance and risk management of AKG, and I also gave the recommendations about risk management of AKG. That's all our presentation. Thanks for your listening.